So for my mini speech, I went with the topic of 3 fascinating historical events, or terrifying. I'm kind of going to focus on the terrifying because that's always more fun. The first one I'm going to talk about is Little Albert. So Little Albert was an experiment carried out by John Watson, which basically he would kidnap a child from a daycare every day to run experiments on him. And in this experiment, he would get a white, fluffy, soft object, and then whenever the child would try to touch it, he would bang a gong super loud so that would condition the child to just hate soft, white, fluffy things. And so this was done without the mother's knowledge of the child at the daycare. And once she found out, they immediately moved the child away. And I don't know what was wrong with the experiment or how this was ethically proper, but it was a long time ago, so things are different. But he later found out that little Albert, the one being tortured and conditioned, never learned how to walk, never learned how to talk, and he died at the age of 6. The second event I'm going to talk about is Jonestown. So Jonestown was basically a cult mass suicide, which I didn't know about until I took my first psychology class when I was a junior in high school, and I had no idea. But so in this town of Jonestown, the leader, Jim Jones, convinced this group of people to have a mass suicide with promises of a better afterlife, and 918 people in the town died, and it was the largest single loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act since September 11th, which is just an insane statistical fact that someone would convince so many people of something that is totally not true. And he convinced them to drink, it was called Kool-Aid, but it was really a cyanide mixture, and it turned out that the people that didn't drink it and had second thoughts, he just shot them. So just to add even more fun to it, the third event that I think is really the most terrifying, it's actually one of the most well-known psychology experiments, was the Stanford Prison Experiment. So it was an attempt to investigate the psychological effects on perceived power. So it was all pretty casual and normal. They had promises, they offered people money to be part of this experiment, and they kind of made a class division of people who had power, people who didn't have power, and it was just insane to see what the people did with power, and it became like an actual prison. It was random college students, but it took a horrible dark turn with the psychological just torture because people were just freaking out, and some of them accepted the power dynamic, but they just started to go crazy, and the entire experiment was abandoned after 6 days just because of the questions of its morality. But it really highlighted human nature and kind of a benchmark as to what normal people can turn into and like how they can be so cruel when given authority.